All right, how do you find the perfect co-host if you're an owner that's looking for a co-host to manage your Airbnb for you? Or how do you make yourself stand out as a co-host so owners want you to manage their property? So we're gonna go ahead and break that down in this video today. But first off, let's talk about an overview of what co-hosting is. Co-hosting is managing a property for an owner that currently does not have the time to manage it for themselves on different platforms like Airbnb, VRBO, or Booking.com, right? And as a co-host, pretty much what you do is you manage the entire process for the owner, such as client communication, which are guests that are staying at the property. You manage cleaner scheduling, you manage the maintenance for the property, you manage owner statements. There's numerous different things, but the point that I'm trying to make here is your job is to make it completely seamless for owners that you're managing for. All right, so let's go ahead and get into it. So what are the benefits of having a co-host? So pretty much a co-host saves the owner actual time so that they do not have to manage it for themselves. And really, maybe somebody bought a property and they just want to make it passive, right? So they're hiring a co-host to do so. All right, so that's the biggest thing. The other thing is they want the property to be able to be taken care of to the best of its ability, right? And majority of the time, owners do not know how to manage an Airbnb efficiently. They don't know the systems to use, but in reality, they could pretty much manage it pretty seamlessly themselves with the right automations in place, which you as a co-host should be implementing as well. All right. So the purpose of this guide is to provide you tips and strategies for finding the ideal Airbnb co-host or making yourself stand out as a co-host to potential clients. All right. So go ahead and get into it. So what are the responsibilities of a co-host? So we mentioned a few of them in the beginning, but one other one I do want to mention is taxes, right? So you need to determine if you are going to be filing the taxes for the actual owner themselves. So certain cities like West Palm Beach, for example, there's something called a TDT tax, which is tourist destination tax. Either way, you have to file it every single month to be in compliance with the city. So as a co-host, you get to determine if you want to take on that responsibility. Some co-hosts decide to take that on as a responsibility. Some decide not to. All right. So research with your county, because some counties, some cities will automatically collect it from Airbnb and Vrbo, but others will make you fill it in at the end of the month for yourself. You need to be able to enhance the guest experience through proper collaboration. So what does this actually look like? It's making sure you have communication with the guests all throughout their process, from the time that they book their reservation, from the time that they're inquiring about their reservation, from 24 hours before they check in, because you want to send check-in instructions and make sure they're able to find the property efficiently, as well as after they check in. So when I say after they check in, you want to make sure that they have everything that they need, that they're having a good experience, that there's no issues with the property whenever they check in. The next time that you want to check in with them is going to be 24 hours before they check out. All right, you want to send them checkout instructions. You want to make sure that they don't have any questions on where to take the trash, how to take out the trash, how to strip the bed of linens, everything like that. And then the next time you want to check in with them is 24 hours after they check out. You want to say something along the lines of, hey, I hope you had a great stay. If you wouldn't mind, could you please leave me a 5-star review? It would really mean the world to us. And what this does is it helps you get more 5-star reviews to rank your property that you're managing for an owner higher in the algorithm for Airbnb and Vrbo. All right. So you can also enhance the guest experience with a few different ways. Some ways that I like to do is handwritten letters to every single guest that I have my cleaners leave out. If it's a high paying guest in your peak season that you're managing for, I'd recommend leaving out little goodie bags, right? Like I've seen some Airbnb managers leave out a mug, their logo for the actual Airbnb, if there's some branding related to that actual property. I've seen some people leave out a bottle of wine. There's numerous different things that you can do, but the point is you're going above and beyond, because this guest, whenever they book that property, they're not expecting a bottle of wine. They're not expecting a letter handwritten by your cleaner, or pretty much they're thinking it's yourself, right? And these little things go so far in their mind. All right. So let's talk about the financial benefits of having a co-host. So if you're an actual owner, right, most likely you're going to pay somebody 20% to manage your property, because there's a lot of turnover, a lot of guest communication, everything like that, cleaner communication, cleaner scheduling. So you're going to pay a co-host 20%. Now, as a co-host, you're going to make 20%, right? And you have very little overhead. There is some overhead related to tech fees that I mentioned earlier. You can set up a tech automation to automatically schedule your cleaner, set up a tech automation to automatically send check-in instructions, checkout instructions, things like that. There's different tech softwares that you can use to be able to price your listing based on the supply and the demand in the market, so that you don't have to automatically automatically do that yourself, right? So you need to be using these tech fees either yourself, or you need to automatically be doing these manually, either sending the messages manually, doing the pricing manually, finding the cleaners and scheduling them manually. But that is going to be one of your jobs as an actual co-host. All right. So let's go ahead and jump into the rest. So key qualities to look for in a co-host, right? Guest communication is going to be a huge one. Hospitality. Does this person that's managing your property have experience with guest relations, client success, communication, whatever you want to say? Whenever you talk to a potential co-host, do they seem warm? Are they inviting? Are they asking good questions? You got to remember, the person that you're going to end up hiring is going to be having communication with all of your guests. So it's making sure that this is like a nice person, they can hold a conversation, but that's the main thing that you want to look for, as well as their attention to detail. So when it comes to attention to detail, right? So whenever you have a cleaner clean the property, are they actually going to that property? Do they have somebody on their team actually going to the property and making sure everything is in tip-top shape, making sure the cleaners didn't miss anything, making sure no guests left anything behind. If they do leave something behind, do they have a protocol to be able to send that over to a guest who left this behind to make sure they do leave a good review? So that's going to be one of the main things. And how quickly are they responding to actual inquiries, right? So say an inquiry comes in, I usually like to have a KPI, which is a key performance indicator for my team, to make sure they're replying within 5 to 10 minutes of every single inquiry, right? Because you got to think about it as a guest, whenever you're searching for a property on Airbnb, you're probably messaging 3 or 4 different people about the properties before you book. If you're able to be quick, if that co-host is able to be quick with responding to inquiries, you're most likely going to get booked more often. All right. So making sure they're responsive very quickly, and make sure you just ask them, hey, how quick do you respond to inquiries? What does that look like? All right. Do they have experience in co-hosting, or are they just starting out? Right. And there's certain benefits, right? If you're just starting out as a co-host, it can be good in an owner's eyes, because as a property owner myself, I wouldn't want to go with a large corporation, because then you're just going to be a number on a spreadsheet. I really want to focus on a boutique manager. Maybe they're starting out, maybe they only have 1 listing, maybe they have 10 listings, right? The point is you're going to have more time. They're going to have more time to be able to manage your actual property themselves than a large corporation, right? And they're going to be able to add that boutique touch, handwritten letters, bottle of wine, going above and beyond for your guests. So ask them, how big are you? What is your experience in co-hosting? If they are just starting out and they've gone through like an Airbnb management program already, so they have experience with that, I wouldn't turn them away. I wouldn't say no, right? Because even if my property is their first property, I know that they're going to go above and beyond because they're starting out this business. So don't shy away from those people that are just beginning. How reliable are the co-hosts that you're thinking about using, right? So what does that look like? In my eyes, if something breaks at that property and a handyman needs to come out, that should be handled that same day, right? Because in hospitality, when things go wrong, if you're at a hotel, it gets fixed instantly, right? And the same thing with Airbnbs. Just because it's an Airbnb and not a hotel, we need to maintain this proper standard no matter what, all right? So ask them, how quickly are you responding to issues that pop up with an actual guest? If something breaks, the AC goes out, are you able to get somebody out there the next day? What does your team look like? And then compatibility, right? For your hosting goals, do they specialize in revenue management? Is revenue like a huge thing for you? Or is it like making sure your property stays at the best of its ability? And if you're a co-host, these are different things that you should be asking your owner as well. Like, what is most important to you when you're looking for a co-host? Is it your revenue management? Is it making sure the house stays in tip-top shape? Because there's different procedures you can put in place for where to find potential co-hosts. All right, so there's numerous different ways to find co-hosts, or if you're looking for more clients, put yourself in the right situation. So personally, there's a lot of Facebook groups that you can go on, short-term rental Facebook groups, where there's tons and tons of co-hosts on there. There's now an Airbnb community center where Airbnb will now link you up with co-hosts on their platform. There is a website called Co-host Marketplace where you can go on to find co-hosts within your area. Or my favorite is like just Googling Airbnb property manager in your city and looking for the boutique managers that have great reviews. That's the best way for you to be able to find a co-host. And if you're a manager yourself and already a co-host and you're looking for new clients, I highly recommend you create a website, create your branding around that, and get your SEO ranked up quickly so people can find you, right? So many people are looking on Google, searching Google for Airbnb property managers whenever they're looking for somebody to manage their house potentially. And then there's also local networking events that you can go into. So Bigger Pockets, if you've never heard of that, that's a real estate website. They have a podcast, and local people to your market will host real estate events. And there's usually a lot of investors in there, a lot of managers in there. So you could potentially go to a local real estate event in your area and just start asking around, start networking. Hey, are there any local Airbnb property managers here? And if you're a co-host, it's a great way for you to get in the right rooms with people that already have investment properties to pitch your services to. Conducting interviews and assessments. You need to prepare a list of questions. I just mentioned a few of them before. If you're an owner looking for a co-host, some of the questions I would ask is, like I mentioned earlier, is what is your revenue management strategy for low season, high season? What are your protocols with inquiries that are coming in? What does your cleaner procedure look like? Do you have somebody checking after every single clean? What does your optimization look like to make sure I'm landing on page one and I'm getting the most bookings? There's numerous different things that you can ask a potential co-host. And these, if you are a co-host, these are the things that you should have buttoned down whenever you're going through a process at having an owner ask you these questions if you should be their manager. The other thing I would do is I would check their reviews on Airbnb if you're looking for a co-host, see where they're ranked at. Are they a super host? Do they have any guest favorites? And you as a co-host, that's mainly what you should be focusing on is your reviews. Are you a guest favorite? Do you know what the branding looks like in that actual market for what properties perform well? For example, down here in South Florida, properties that do well are designed in a boho coastal themed. They're close to the beach, numerous different things, all right? So make sure they understand what properties do perform the best. Make sure you know what properties perform the best if you are a co-host. And then ask for a few references. Like ask people that if they already have 1 or 2 or 5 properties under management, ask if you can speak to them, see how their current experience is going. It's gonna be the best way to do it. And then the other thing, as a homeowner and as a co-host, what you mainly wanna focus on is doing trial periods, because not every relationship is gonna work out to the best of its ability. Sometimes you're gonna have owners that are very nitpicky, like are very frustrating to work with. And sometimes if you're an owner, sometimes you're gonna have a co-host that doesn't really know what they're doing. So do a trial period on both sides. I usually recommend 60 days, right? So you do 60 days with a co-host or 60 days with an owner and just see how it is with working with them. After the 60 days, you guys have a conversation, see if you are both aligned in what you're offering or what they're providing, and then make a decision if you want to continue working with them or if you should go your separate ways. And put that in your contract as well, your services agreement, whenever they send it over to you, that you're able to get out of that contract within 60 days or at the 60-day mark. Talk about the co-hosting agreement, right? So one thing I just mentioned, a 60-day trial period, you want to cover all your different liability options in there. Pulling up mine right now to take a look at it. What pricing management strategy are you using? Are you charging any tech fees? Are they charging any fees as a co-host on top of their 20% management fee that they're charging you? As a co-host, usually recommend charging a $100 technology fee for all the different fees that you do use as a co-host. How are the taxes set up, right? Is a co-host filing the taxes for you, or are you filing them directly? How is maintenance and repairs taken into account? Like, does the co-host have your card on file, and have you authorized them up to a certain amount to go ahead and charge your card on file if something does break without having to get a call from them? That's a major one that you want to take into consideration. Let's keep going down this list. How are statements set up? Like, are statements sent out on the 1st of the month? Are they set out on the 15th of the month? How are payouts set up? Are you getting the money directly yourself, or are they sending you the money on the 1st of the 15th of the month? Make sure you have that written out in the services agreement. Make sure all utilities and services are set up for auto bill pay so they do not go out, or so services do not get cut off when a guest is staying there. What does it look like if the termination of the agreement comes in place? Like, if you have future bookings, does the manager still get to keep that percentage? And yeah, that's just a few different things that I would recommend putting into your services agreement if you are an owner or a co-host as well. And then the other thing is like, just set clear expectations from the very beginning. Like, who is going to be responsible for what? What is the co-host responsible for? What is the owner responsible for? Because if you don't set these expectations in the very beginning, it creates like a hostile work relationship with the co-host and the owner. So who is handling what? What is their responsibility? What is your responsibility? And just make sure you hash that out in the very beginning before you go into contract. The other thing I want to recommend is a few different tips for having a successful co-hosting partnership is once a quarter, you should sit down with your co-host or your manager and just go over how the property is actually performing currently. Like, is it doing well? Is it doing bad? What are some optimization strategies that we can do to either increase the design, add different amenities? How has the revenue been for the past month, past 2 months, past 3 months, year over year? Make sure you're having those quarterly meetings. You don't want your owners to be in the dark at all. And you as an owner, you don't want to be in the dark as well. So just to recap real quick, we went through the key things that you want to touch on as an owner with a co-host or as a co-host to an owner, right? So just to go through that one more time, having proper communication, the definition of the responsibilities of an Airbnb co-host, making sure things are written out correctly in the actual contract, making sure the co-host is responsive, they have certain KPIs for cleaning, scheduling, inquiries, maintenance check-ins, everything like that. We went through how to potentially find co-hosts on different platforms such as the Airbnb community, Facebook groups, real estate meetups, websites is a huge one, and how to go through the interview process of a co-host. So if you have any further questions, feel free to drop a comment below. If you need to reach me, feel free to reach me on Instagram at Austin__Palacios, and I'll see you in the next video.